We interrupt this training series to bring you a very special episode. Today is all about helping your child learn to handle interruptions in activities and make smooth transitions from one activity to another. All right, so let's start out as we always do by breaking down this skill and examining it in parts. So we have the person doing something and there's some sort of external interruption. Many times, the interruption is another person's direction to do something else. So, in response, part B, your learner is pausing what they're doing and moving in some way to make that transition. As a result, they're now doing something else. Doing that next activity somehow makes that person's life better. That next activity might be something the person enjoys doing, or it might be a gateway to access something else that they enjoy. This then it allows them to return to the original activity or contact some other reward. So if your learner is having difficulty demonstrating this under a variety of different circumstances, then it's going to be helpful to break it down even further. Technically, your child is doing two things here when they're making a transition. They're first stopping one activity, and keep in mind, the activity that they're doing could simply be relaxing. It might appear as if they're not doing anything, but human beings, we're always doing something. So just keep that in mind. All right, so they're stopping one activity and then moving to start another. Before we start teaching any skill, you want to assess what your child can already do and pinpoint exactly where they start to struggle. You'll know that they're struggling when they're no longer doing it quickly or accurately without support, and they can't yet perform the skill under a variety of different situations. So commonly, it's that they can transition to a more preferred activity, but they can't do it the other way around if that activity is less preferred than what they're doing. Now, another signal that they're struggling is if they're starting to present any kind of challenging behavior when they're put in that situation. If your child is learning to cooperate when it's time to pause a fun activity, then your starting point is actually going to be somewhere in the last episode. You want to strengthen their ability to cooperate with giving something up before you add on the requirement of then transitioning to something else. So as you're working on this, whenever there's a need to transition, just want to use those prevention strategies. So present a promise if they have to give something up, and then make a difficult transition. Use plain and predictable language and provide prompts such as gentle guidance to help them respond successfully. And ultimately, just make that transition activity as fun as possible. That's going to help them learn that doing new things can be exciting. Okay, if your child is readily stopping one activity, then you want to keep this response strong. It's a lot easier to teach them to make smooth transitions when they stay cooperative with giving up. And the way that you're going to maintain their responding is to reward it sometimes. So you're going to acknowledge it often. And another way you're going to reward that is sometimes you're going to add in something else that they would enjoy in the moment. And sometimes also let them go back to what they were doing. You're going to reward their cooperation by letting them go right back to what they were doing, not even having to transition to do something else. All right, so if we've pinpointed that they're starting to struggle with the transition, moving to the next activity, then there's two things that we want to consider. Are they struggling to follow the direction because they don't know exactly how to respond? Or are they struggling because they don't want to do what comes after the transition? So, in other words, they associate that direction with being expected to do something they don't really want to do, and their response is a way that helps them avoid having to make that transition. Either way, you're going to begin by teaching your child to follow specific directions that you might say during times of transition. So we're going to start to teach them how to respond to these directions quickly and cooperatively instead of what they're doing now. We're going to break down these directions and we're going to start with just one single direction at a time, and then we'll build from there. So if needed, you're also going to provide some extra assistance to help your child respond to the instruction by moving in the right direction. So you're going to use, we're going to do this through use of prompts, such as gentle guidance, your hand on their shoulder maybe, or you can also use gestures such as pointing or motioning to help guide their movement. So here's some examples of specific directions that you might give your child when it's time to transition. Come here, move here, go over here, stand up, walk with me, sit here. What you'll notice about each of those directions is that it starts with an action that tells your child to tells your child to be moving in some way. And the other part of that instruction clearly specifies the direction of that movement. So, for example, come here tells your child to start moving in my direction. So, approaching me, coming toward the sound of my voice. Move here signals to your child to move in the direction of your cue. So, you might be using a gesture or proximity. Walk with me tells your child to start moving in the same direction as you. So they're transitioning with you and staying beside you during that transition. Now, as your child's language skills develop, you're going to be able to replace some of those directional words. So instead of saying, come here, you'll be able to say things like, come upstairs. Or instead of saying, go over here, as you point, you'll be able to say, go to the kitchen. Like all skills, you want to start where your child is. So meet them where they are. And then you can systematically build complexity. So here is a video model of me teaching a learner to tolerate a brief interruption, follow a simple direction, which is to come here, and make a short transition. Candy Crush. Yeah. Boing. Okay, that one. Yeah. Here, come here. Good coming right away. We'll keep playing Candy Crush. So I interrupted the game we were playing, but notice that I held on to it and I just took a few steps back from where we were. I used that fun and friendly tone and a gesture as I gave that clear instruction, come here. So she stood up and approached me, and things got better for her as a result. She continued to access my attention, and we resumed playing the game. Now, because this interaction resulted in something good happening, when she given that instruction in the future, she's more likely to respond in that same way. The more times that her life gets better for responding that way, the more that response is going to continue to happen. So here's another video demonstration of tolerating a brief interruption. getting access to something preferred, and eventually resuming that activity. And stop. Jump, a jump, a jump, and stop. Come here for a spin. That's how you come right away. Ready? Spin. All right, let's go back to the trampoline. Jump. So essentially, the lesson we're trying to teach is that a transition doesn't terminate the fun. The transition is what leads to the opportunity to do something else, which can be just as fun, and cooperation eventually leads to transitioning back to what they were doing. So before we get started, again, one of the best strategies you can use to help your child make successful transitions is using what's called a promise reinforcer. You're using your child's motivation as a tool for helping them learn the value of cooperating when it's time to make a transition. So here's how you're going to use that tool most effectively. So first, you have to identify a reward that's going to be valuable enough to your child in the moment, and it's got to be valuable in comparison to what you're asking them to do. So you're going to clearly show the reward that's available if they follow through. Then you're going to say a clear direction. If your child cooperates with the transition, you're immediately going to follow through by giving them the promise. So you give what you promised. But if they present challenging behavior, which is anything that attempts to avoid or escape the transition, you're going to quietly remove the promise. So you're no longer showing the promise. You're going to calmly say the direction again. And you're going to provide a little support to help them respond successfully. Once they start or complete the transition, that's going to depend upon your expectation. You can give a small reward and try to make it different than what you showed them, or a lot less. So this is going to help them realize that the challenging behavior didn't work, but the cooperative behavior that you're trying to replace it with did work by producing something that they like. A promise reinforcer is going to help your child set up your child for success. We want to do everything right now that we can to ensure our child learns that cooperation makes life better. So the more that your child experiences success, the responding cooperatively, leading to improving conditions, the more that this happens, the faster and the better that they're going to learn it. So here's an example of interrupting an activity and making a transition with the use of a promise. Oh, you want to take Paw Patrol? Here, I brought you a snack. I'm going to be in the kitchen washing the dishes. You need a drink? Come here. That's good coming right away. Here's some pineapple juice. Go enjoy your snack. So she was watching a show and eating a snack. I used the motivation for juice to establish cooperation to make a short transition. I held up the juice, which made it clear that coming to me was going to result in getting the juice. She was willing to walk away from her show and she stopped eating her snack because the reward, the juice, was worth it. And when she followed that direction to come here, she got the juice and she got to go right back to her snack and her TV show. So the promise, here the juice, was one extra thing that just helped her respond successfully. Remember, I'm not going to have to use a promise forever. The more opportunities that she has that result in success, her life gets better. the more that the history of success will be what gets her to respond. Right, I'm going to play this video and see if you can spot the steps within this coloring activity. So remember the steps to using a promise reinforcer are show, say, and give. So as you watch this video, as another example, see if you can identify those steps. Show, say, give. Ears. Good. Move here. Good, moving. Here's some more crayons. Let's finish coloring. We were coloring, and I anticipated my learner wanted to use a different color crayon. So I showed the crayons. I said, move here. And when she moved, I gave her some specific praise. That's how you move. And I immediately gave her the crayons that I presented as the promise. So I delivered my promise, gave her the crayons, held up my end of the bargain. All right, so practice will help your child make progress. And as your child progresses, you're going to be able to fade out your support, gradually increase the distance and duration, intersperse easy tasks, and vary the direction. You're going to be able to fade out that promise eventually, I promise. But you might not be able to do all these things at once. So the most important thing is you want to keep your child successful. Remember, success drives success. All right, let's watch another video example of transitioning. Here, bring me your cup. Good. Come in here, put it in the sink. That's how you come right away. Go ahead, back to your Paw Patrol. Okay, so in that video there, I did present a promise. So you see her walking away with those chains. I said, bring me your cup. So that was a cue that she had learned, that she comes toward me and she brings whatever's in her hand, the cup here in this example, and she did an easy task. So she put it in the sink. And then doing all those things ultimately led her to being able to transition back to watching her show. So another transition direction that is worthwhile teaching is walk with me. You can teach your child to walk and stay with you while you're transitioning, and they can do that without having to hold their hand. So here's a video demonstration to give my learner practice responding successfully to the direction, walk with me. Oh, I think we need to go get some more batteries. Here, stand up. Walk with me. Open the drawer. Here it goes. That's good. Getting the remote. Off. And put in some new batteries. On, let's close the drawer. Good, walk with me. Good, walk with me. Here's the remote. Now we can watch TV. Yeah. All right, so there was some clear motivation to watch TV, but I set up a situation where she needed the batteries for the remote for the TV to start. So I set my learner up for success because the transition didn't take her away from the TV show. The transition was actually what led to being able to access the TV show, because we couldn't start the TV until we got the batteries. So we had to move in the direction of the batteries. The transition was brief. The batteries were only a few steps away. She took those steps with me and stayed with me. So I didn't really require a lot of extra responses. I had her give me the remote and she had to stay with me. Those were the responses that I was looking for. I narrated what I was doing so she could hear the words associated with the actions. But notice I didn't require her to answer questions about what I was doing above what I was requiring her to do, which was walking with me and staying with me. I wanted to keep that practice, those practice opportunities fun and focused. I want to get back to that TV show as soon as I can. So she associates following that direction, walk with me, with getting the TV show or with life getting better. As your child learns to make smooth transitions, you can gradually intersperse other types of responses. This is going to help build their ability to make longer transitions and do other things in between. You want these things to be easy enough that your child can respond successfully. If what you're asking them to do is too hard, they might begin to associate the transition with things are about to get hard. And that's actually going to make transition something that they'll want to avoid. So get them responding successfully so they can contact that reward as soon as possible. And that reward might be going back to the original activity, or it might be leading to the next activity, which is something that they're going to enjoy. So either way, you want cooperation to be what leads them there. Okay, so what if your learner doesn't cooperate? Going back for a moment, I realized I never played the video, did I? So we're going to talk about mistakes in the next slide, and there was my mistake today. So let's go ahead and play that. Your cup. That's how you bring me your cup. Some chains. Here, do this one. Put it in. Good. Following directions. Putting in. Here's some more chains. You can go play with your chains. Okay, so she made a transition. I used that promise still because I wanted to do everything I could to ensure that successful transition. She did a couple easy responses. She imitated what I was doing. She copied what I was doing. I knew she could do that. And I also had her putting the cup in the sink, following my direction to put in. And then I gave her another piece of the chain. So she got even above what she expected. She expected to get the one I showed her, but she wasn't expecting a bonus one. And then I let her go back to the original activity. Okay, so jumped a little ahead of myself, but I like to include mistakes because mistakes are normal. They're going to happen in the learning process. So the best thing that you can do is learn to identify what those mistakes are and then learn from them. Okay, so here's what you're going to do if your child doesn't cooperate. You presented the direction and now they do anything else other than cooperate. They may present some challenging behavior or even just not doing it can be challenging. So if your learner doesn't cooperate, you want to be prepared with how to respond. Here's how you're going to respond most effectively, but also safely. Yeah, oh, here's a corner piece. Oh, there you go. Put that together. Here, come here. No. Come here. That's how you come. Good, let's go do your puzzle. All right, we were doing a puzzle. I had some puzzle pieces and I stepped away from the activity and asked her to approach me. And that was how she was going to get the puzzle pieces. But instead of approaching me, she said, no. Okay. So the first thing I did was I stopped showing the promise. So I just put them behind my back because she was still going to have to cooperate with the direction, but she wasn't going to get those puzzle pieces. So that putting it behind my back clearly signaled it without having to say that. I could actually be making it worse if I just tell her what she was losing. Just put it behind my back. The next thing I did was I calmly said the direction again. Okay. So I said the direction and I also helped her to respond to that direction. So I gave a little nudge on the shoulder. It was just enough to get her moving in the right direction. And when she responded cooperatively, things got a little better for her. Coming to me got a small reward. So in this case, it got one puzzle piece. She didn't get the whole pile that I originally showed her, but that one puzzle piece signified that things got a little better when she responded a little better. So this time, instead of saying no, she came to me, and that's what got the puzzle piece. You didn't get the puzzle piece for saying no, you got the puzzle piece for cooperating. So anytime that your learner doesn't respond cooperatively, you want to try to evaluate what went wrong, but don't get stuck in the mistake. Instead, just learn from the mistake. Was I expecting my child to do something too difficult without any support? Was my direction clear? Did I use a prompt to help them respond? Did I pick a promise that was valuable enough in the moment and worth what I was asking for them to do? Did I reward their cooperative responding in the past, quickly and consistently? Am I practicing enough at the easy levels, or are things getting too hard too fast? If we can identify where we went wrong, you can then try again, and this time you now know what to try a little differently. You can try again right away, or you might need to take some time and try it again a little later. So let's watch take 2 as I try again to have my learner pause the puzzle to approach me. Pretty purple dress. Come here. That's how you run right away. Let's go to your puzzle. Yeah. So here's the subtle thing that I did differently this time. It was helpful that I ran it immediately after I helped her do that cooperative response and she got that one puzzle piece. But this time I paid closer attention to what she wanted. So I was watching which puzzle pieces she was putting together, and I made sure that I was holding the puzzle pieces that she wanted. So when I took a step away from the table and I said, come here, and she came to me, this time she immediately came to me. She cooperated. I got the response I was looking for. So the reward was better. Got a better response, the better reward. She was more cooperative. She got more reward. I gave her more quality attention. Look how excited I got. She loved that excitement. Plus, she got lots of puzzle pieces. I was willing to give her the whole entire puzzle for that. Plus, she got to go right back to the puzzle. Plus, I stayed with her and played with the puzzle with her because she liked that type of interaction. There was a clear difference in the reward for that cooperative response. So in the future, when I present that direction and she has the same two options, cooperate or not, she's going to be more likely to pick cooperation. It's going to be worth her while to cooperate. All right, so that is it for today's episode. If you found it helpful, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and don't forget to visit the resource collection for more on this and other topics. Subscribe to that channel and turn on those notifications. Subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode, which is going to expand on this topic. We're going to be talking about how you can teach your child to wait for what they want. So a special thanks to Elena Jones and Mel Gordy for helping with the creation of these video models for this episode. Remember, no one can do everything on their own, so don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. When you allow others to help you, that ultimately helps your child. All right, see you next time.